Hello everyone, got 5 dirty jokes for you today. So a guy goes to a brothel and asks for a girl. The madam explains that she's sorry, but all the girls are occupied. All she has is the goat at the end of the hall. He can do the goat for $10. Guy goes to the room at the end of the hall and indeed, there's a goat. The goat is washed and smells nice with a soft, furry skin. He thinks, what the hell, why not? And has passionate time with the goat. A week later, he feels frisky again and decides to go back. He asks for the goat, but alas, the madam informs him that even the goat isn't available. But she has a peeping theater available. He pays $10 and goes to the peeping room, where there are several men in the dark, watching through a see-through mirror how a guy is going to town on the ugliest woman he ever laid eyes on. The man turns to his neighbor and says, "Man, that chick is ugly." The other guy turns around and says, "That's nothing. Last week they had someone screwing a goat." So there was a bravest man in the world contest. There were 3 brave contenders that had to survive 3 missions and survive. The first mission was to swim 1 lap in an Olympic pool filled with crocodiles. The second was shake the hand of a raged gorilla, and the third was to screw a 100-year-little old lady. First contender got it to the pool and was eaten alive by the crocs. Second contender managed to swim through the pool. Then he entered the gorilla's cave. There were screams of horror, and he was eventually pulled out after the gorilla tore him to pieces. Third contender managed to survive the crocs and went into the gorilla's cave. Horrible shouts of agony were heard, but eventually the third contender walked out in one piece. A reporter approached him to congratulate him. "You're already the winner of the contest, and you are about to be the first man to accomplish all the missions and stay alive." The man answered, "Okay, so just show me this little old lady so I can shake her hand and get it over with." So a guy runs away and joins the French Foreign Legion. A couple of squatters show him around. "Here's where we camp, here's the toilet, and here's the camel for when you get horny." "What?" the guy says, incredulous. "Yeah," the squatters say. "Here there are no women, not even photos are allowed." "No way am I using that camel," the guy says. "Trust us, everyone uses the camel." A couple weeks go by, and the guy indeed gets so horny that touching himself won't do anymore. He goes up to those squatters and says he's finally ready to use the camel. "Sure," they say, and one even brings a stool to help the guy up. The guy screws the camel with such energy that when he's finally finished, he collapses on the sand, panting. "Wow," he says. "That was actually fantastic. I've never felt anything like it. Tell me, how did you find it?" "Wouldn't know," the squatters say. "We usually ride it into town where the brothels are." So the mafia godfather finds out that his bookkeeper, Guido, has cheated him out of $10 million. His bookkeeper is deaf. That was the reason he got the job in the first place. It was assumed that Guido would hear nothing, so he would not have to testify in court. When the godfather goes to confront Guido about his missing $10 million, he takes along his lawyer who knows sign language. The godfather tells the lawyer, "Ask him where's the money." The lawyer, using sign language, asks Guido, "Where's the money?" Guido signs back, "I don't know what you are talking about." The lawyer tells the godfather, he says he doesn't know what you are talking about. The godfather pulls out a pistol, puts it to Guido's temple and says, "Ask him again." The lawyer signs to Guido, "He'll kill you if you don't tell him." Guido signs back, "Okay. You win." The money is in a brown briefcase, buried behind the shed at my cousin Bruno's house. The godfather asks the lawyer, "What did he say?" The lawyer replies, "He says you don't have the balls to pull the trigger." So, an old-time prospector lives 50 miles outside of the only town for 100 miles. This old-timer is well known for only coming into town once a year to spend his money on whiskey and supplies, never to be seen again until the next year. One year, he comes to town, heads straight for the bar, and tells the bartender, "Set him up, I'm celebrating." After he knocks back a few, he motions for the bartender to come closer and whispers, "Hey, I just got my money from the claim for this year, and I'm looking to spend some of it. You got any women round here?" The bartender replies, "Nope, haven't had any women round these parts since the summer before last. But if it's a good time you're looking for, we got all gym round the back." The old prospector jumps up and shouts, "Goddammit, I ain't one of them city fellers, and I ain't into that shit." He storms out, and no one sees him for the rest of the year. The next year, around the same time, the old prospector comes down from his claim, goes to the bank, and then straight to the bar again. He tells the bartender, "Set up them glasses and leave the bottle, I've got some drinking to do." After he's downed about 6 shots, he motions the bartender over and whispers, "I've been up on that claim for years and haven't seen nor felt a woman in ages. You got any women that I might pay for some company?" The bartender replies, "Welp, we did have a lass come through about September, but she went off to San Francisco after a couple of weeks. But if you're that hard up, we still got all gym round the back." The prospector leaps up and practically roars, "I done told you last year I ain't into that shit." He leaves town in a huff, and no one sees him for a full 2 years this time. 2 years later, the prospector comes riding into town, heads as usual for the bank, and then straight to the bar. He calls the bartender and says, "A round for everyone in here, and a bottle o' your finest just for me. I got 2 years' worth of catching up in me." After the prospector is good and tipsy, he motions the bartender over and whispers, "Listen, I know you said you ain't got no women the last time I came through here, but anything changed since then?" The bartender shakes his head and says, "Sorry, mister. The last woman I saw was the schoolmistress who died of consumption last July. But if you're really itching for something, we still got all gym round the back." The prospector takes one look at the bartender and says, "Look, mister, I told you I ain't into that shit." Then he leans closer and whispers even lower, "But, supposin' I was to go round back with all Jim. Wha round here would know about it?" The bartender looks at him, thinks for a minute, and says, "Welp, there's you of course, and there's me, and obviously all Jim's gotta know about it too. Oh, and there are the 2 other guys." The prospector looks baffled and says, "What the hell would we need to bring in 2 other guys for?" The bartender replies, "Why, for holding all Jim, of course. He ain't into that shit neither."